So each year, we look to the Jewish tradition to teach us something about what these holidays can mean for us in a given season. And we've already said many times, Shana Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Literally, it means a good year. And most of us assume it's a New Year's greeting. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. It's not a greeting at all. Shana Tova, when you say Shana Tova to someone else, it's actually a prayer. It's a hope. It's an aspiration. We're expressing to somebody we say Shana Tova to, that they will have a good year, a year of blessing. In the Jewish tradition, if you heard the prayer we just read, the Sim Shalom, it links the two ideas together, goodness and blessing. Place Tova uvracha, goodness and blessing, upon all of us. It is what we wish for those we love, a year of blessing. And the question in part is, what blessing are we hoping for? And in the Jewish tradition, we know when someone wishes another a good year, it always begins with health, always. The Jewish people are sensitive to and in some way are properly obsessed by. There should be good health for everyone we know, for our family, and for our friends. And that's what we begin with. The blessing we want most for people, first and foremost, is you should have good health. And then it normally is health and happiness. You should have a happy year. And when the Jew talks about a happy year, he's talking about a year of, in some way, fulfillment. On the one hand, we always hope that there are enough material comforts in the lives of those we love that they can enjoy their lives. But we know that the most special thing that makes life happy is if there is a fulfilling, meaningful relationship. If they have a person or people in their lives that somehow gives them a sense of not being alone and being surrounded by love. We want the blessing of relationships for people we love. And we also want them to have a fulfilling life. We want them to enjoy the work they're doing. And we want them to feel that their life has meaning and purpose. It is interesting that in the Jewish tradition, what we say to each other, even on Shabbat, is Shabbat Shalom Umivorach. We hope you have a peaceful Sabbath, but we are hoping for blessing for you. Shabbat Shalom Umivorach. And actually, if you look at the way in which Jewish life is structured, except for the word Adonai, the most often used word in the practice of Judaism is some form of the word Baruch, bracha, blessed. And it is interesting to see that the Torah has the same idea. It was 5,779 years ago, according to the poetry of the Jewish tradition, that God created Adam, male and female. And the very first way in which God relates to Adam, male and female, is he blesses them. And God created Adam in the image of God, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it." In the Jewish tradition, human life begins with blessing. It's the blessing of relationships, the blessing of purpose, the blessing of creativity. And it's not only the creation story that has this theme. The story of Abraham, the father of the Jewish people. A marvelous passage in the Torah where it says that God blesses Abraham with a blessing that he shall be the father of a great and mighty nation. And then, in a profound statement, God says to Abraham, V'yeh bracha, you will be a blessing. It is not simply that you receive blessing. In the Torah, God is giving Abraham a charge. The charge is to be a blessing. Abraham's responsibility, according to the Torah, is to be a blessing to all humanity, Jew and non-Jew. All humanity should in some way be blessed by what Abraham does. And of course, in the Jewish tradition, that becomes the model. We read the Torah to learn how we are to live our lives. And so if Abraham is told to be a blessing, then we have the responsibility ourselves to be a blessing to those we love and to all those we encounter in this world. That is the genius message of the Torah. It says to us, be a blessing. Find a way to enrich the lives of people you're with. Every time you do something lovely, you will be becoming a blessing and bringing blessing to those you love. And that becomes the whole theme of the High Holidays. The whole theme of the High Holidays is, how do we look to find a way to position our minds as we look to the year ahead? And all of us know the kind of people we want to be. We all know what our aspirations for ourselves are. The kind of lovely person we want to be, the kind of helpful person we want to be. But the problem is life often gets in the way. Very often we feel we're on a treadmill and it obscures our vision. It clouds our ability to see for ourselves what we really want to be. So much is going on in our lives. And there are people of all ages in this room. At different ages, there are different concerns. School can become something that overrides any other concern, or developing relationships and one's own sense of self. Developing a career can be overwhelming. Establishing relationships there too. Caring for children can be overwhelming in the attention it draws. Worrying about money. We wish no one had to ever worry about money. But in this real world, money becomes an issue that draws away our concern and our focus. There's taking care of older parents. There's taking care of each other, especially as we all get older. These are the things which in some way cloud the vision of what we want to be if we're to be a blessing. And then the High Holidays come. And they say, put all those concerns aside. Lift the cloud. The High Holidays lift the obscuring. And all of a sudden, we have the vision to once again focus our attention on what is important and enduring and internal to all of us. To be as sweet and lovely and kind and compassionate as we can possibly be. To be a blessing to others. And we all know what it means to be a blessing. First and foremost, it means time and attention. To be a blessing to the people we love means it's necessary to pay attention to them, to see them for who they are, and to care for them and to communicate complete caring with entire attention. To be a blessing to other people is to understand their dreams, their needs, their fears. And it's almost impossible to live in this world and not to be frightened of something at some time. And sometimes we look at other people and they seem so self-assured. They have no fears. It's human, says the Jewish tradition, to understand that there are things in life that are frightening. And to care for another person is to understand their needs and their fears and their dreams, and to do what we can to help them achieve their dreams. It's about the spoken word. The spoken word can be an extraordinary blessing. And we don't say things enough. Thank you. I'm sorry. You're wonderful. I love you. Every one of those words is a blessing to the person who receives it, who hears it, who feels the embrace. Being a blessing means making the phone call. And we live in a world where the internet is wonderful and email is wonderful. And it's cliche, to just hammer modern technology and the iPhone, and to make fun of how people tend to be in their iPhone so often. The reality is the iPhone and technology expand our lives in wondrous ways. But email is not communication. Email is a message. Communication is by voice. There is something profound in the phone call. And we know it because we've been on the end where the phone rings. And we pick up the phone. And somebody on the other end says something nice. And we know that we're being thought of. That we're cared for and that we're loved. One of the ways we are a blessing to others is to pick up the phone and make the call. Similarly, being a blessing means paying the visit. Actually getting up, leaving the house. I don't know why it is so hard for us to leave the house. And we all know once we've left the house, we're so glad. But to leave the house to go to someone, to be with them, to share with them, that's bringing blessing. That's being a blessing to other people. It's all about showing up. Our responsibility is to be there, to show up when people are in pain, to be present in a minyan so that someone who's lost a beloved can say the Kaddish. That's being a blessing. And looking for every conceivable simcha to celebrate with family and friends. To dance the hora. To scream Mazel Tov, L'Chayim. To share in the embrace of family and friends in the way that validates and affirms the real joys of life. The biggest blessing anyone can be is to give the gift of one's presence. Being there. The biggest gift of all. And the rabbis teach. The Jewish tradition tells us, take both hands and put it on life and say a blessing. Bless life with both hands. And that's where happiness comes from. And that's where a sense of real fulfillment comes from. Putting both hands on life and blessing life. This is the charge of the Jewish tradition, and it is the theme of the high holidays. Not simply to want blessings for ourselves, and we have a responsibility to make life as blessed for ourselves as we possibly can, but to be a blessing to others. That's the challenge. And in doing so, we elevate others and we elevate ourselves, and life is richer and fuller and more rewarding. That is a theme for this Rosh Hashanah, to be a blessing. So the question becomes, how does one symbolize blessing? And as always, the Jewish tradition has the answer. It turns out that the word blessing in Hebrew, blessed, any form of the word to bless, is derived from a noun. And in English, the noun means a well. A well of water. And we understand, in the ancient Near East, water was life. Without water, there was no life. The fundamental, essential blessing was water. And we understand that intuitively and from our own reading and study, how in some way the universe emanates from water. In the Torah, you remember, it says, in the beginning, everything was tohu vavohu, just darkness and bluch. And then Ruach Elohim, mirechefet al pnei hamayim, the Spirit of Adonai, the Spirit of God, hovered over the waters. And out of the waters comes all of creation, culminating in Adam, male and female, created with this extraordinary moral conscience that brings blessing to others. And water plays this incredible role in the Torah. In fact, the Torah is likened to water, that the words of Torah nourish the soul. But we know all the stories with water in it, how important water is in the Torah, not simply in the creation story. It's the Nile River that ultimately is the savior of Moses, which ultimately leads to Jewish history. It is Miriam's well, a well, that travels through the wilderness with the children of Israel. Wherever they go, Miriam's well follows, that they have water to drink. And after Miriam dies, the famous story of Moses whacking the rock to make water flow from it. And in the Jewish tradition, the lore of the Jewish tradition, the water that flowed from that rock is the water that ultimately watered the entire Eretz Yisrael and all of the ancient Near East. And the well plays a very powerful role in the Torah. There are so many stories about a well, not only Miriam's well. It turns out the well was the font of community. It was the water cooler of its time, where people met and laughed and argued and fell in love. And it turns out that the well of the Torah was also the singles bar of its time. It's where people met and fell in love. Wonderful stories. Jacob falls in love with Rachel at the well. It's at a well that Moses meets Zipporah and falls in love. And then there's the iconic Torah story of the well. The most famous of all well stories is the story of Rebekah at the well. And you remember Abraham wants a wife for his son Isaac. He sends his servant, whom the Midrash identifies as Eliezer, to go to Canaan and to find a wife. And Eliezer goes and comes to a well and waits. And he waits for a woman to come who will have exquisite kindness as her signature. Everything about this woman would be to bring blessing to others. And sure enough, Rebekah comes, and we know the story. She gives water from her pitcher to the stranger, Eliezer, and to Eliezer's camels before she takes water for herself. And Eliezer knows this woman of kindness, this woman of blessing, is fit for his servant's son, Isaac. And of course, Rebekah comes back, marries Isaac, and it says, and he loved her. So the symbol becomes self-evident. It's water, but it's not just free-floating water. It's water that is in something reminiscent of what Rebekah had when she came to the well and out of kindness and blessing gave to someone else before she took for herself. And so I'm going to ask that the symbol be brought out for this Rosh Hashanah. It is so simple, pure, clear, sweet water. The symbol in the Jewish tradition of blessing. May these high holidays remind us of the importance of blessing in our lives, that we take nothing for granted and we appreciate every blessing that comes our way. and may the water also remind us of our obligation to be a blessing for those we love, to find ways to add to their lives beauty and comfort and embrace. And in doing so, we elevate ourselves, our friends, and this world. So may it be for these high holidays, and we all say, Amen.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please, indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.